Hello, NDL. The Outliers are back. It is the eve of season 33. Everyone excited to get some games in, get those first wins, get those first losses. Excited to see what happens. I'm also happy to be back on a podcast after not having a voice for like a week and a half. That was a fun time. Vic, how you doing, dude?
I'm good. It's like Christmas Eve. It is like Christmas Eve. It is a dawn of a new season. I'm
Oh,
ready.
the funny thing, I'm actually more excited about getting the first loss out the way than the first win. Just, get that under my belt, and then I can just ease into this game cycle.
That it's always good to get the first loss out the way because it's like I go undefeated, and then a loss is coming at some point.
Yeah, let's just, just get it out the way and just ease
Get
into
it out the
things.
way early.
Well, for the host for the Outliers, this is your home for the G5 brethren of the NDL. There are a lot of newbies as well. So it's going to be a really exciting season. More so because the first season in the game cycle is always a fun time. You got some new coaches in, you have some coaches reshuffling, trying to figure out what exactly they want to do for this game cycle. Oh, there's a lot of change comes after the first season. I'm really excited to see how things play out, especially we're moving from All American to Heisman, and this is a different game. Things are run a little differently. We've got, everyone's favorite animation, the reverse dunk on those hits from behind. So it should be a fun time.
Oh yeah, all you new coaches, be prepared. It's like games all day, every day. Everybody's playing different times of the day. You got your people that your morning crews, your afternoon crews, your night crews, just games all the time.
Yeah, just make sure for the newer guys out there and some of the vets too, if you didn't know, if you're going into the team stats one or clicking on a game, click on preview once the block is unlocked. You can pre-schedule the game. It shows up on the website on the NDL live section, and it fits to your time zone. So you can see what games are on the dock to be played that day, both regular season and cup. It just makes it nicer when you have that schedule up there so you know what to expect, especially for those East Coasters that work early in the day. Hey, they need something to keep them entertained while they're working. So the more games that we can get scheduled, the smoother things will run. Speaking of smoothness,
And
oh, go ahead.
and for all the gamblers out there, it automatically populates lines like gambling lines, over under point totals, the spread. It has all of that on there as soon as you pre-schedule the game.
Yeah, just imagine if we actually had like our own NDL house, so to speak, how much money would this league would make off of
Man,
gambling. We'd be able to fund the NDL convention, or if nothing else, fund Homie getting like $1 million house. And he deserves it too because he does a lot for this league. So that'd be a nice way of paying it forward.
man, if maybe that can happen once the basketball game comes out because there's so many D1 basketball schools, over 300, so it's more widespread. So maybe if we have the NDL, basketball, then maybe we can take it worldwide.
Man, that'd be Nibbler would probably have a headache from that, having to deal with that many people out
Definitely will.
there.
Definitely will.
Well, let's get started talking about this season. We got a couple of topics we wanted to chat about. The first one should be a pretty quick one. Want to recap the top 25. So again, this is the outliers. We focused on the G5. The P4 conferences get enough love in all the other shows. This is specifically about the little guys. And there wasn't a lot of representation of them in the top 25, as you probably would expect. Because when you're looking at Dealer has the voters guide for the preseason, and then just team ratings. You're going to tend to look at the higher rated teams, which are going to be from the SEC and the other power conferences. But what we did see Chip break into the coaches poll and the media poll. It's just at 21 in the coaches, 25 in the media. What are you thinking about that, Vic? Too high, too low, just right?
Just right. I feel like it's just right because it's Chip, and Chip is the G5 veteran. Chip is the G5 wizard. If we're speaking of longevity and consistency and winning, you think of G5, you automatically think of Chip as one of the best representatives of the G5. So it's out of respect to him. I voted for him in the top 25 out of respect for him as a coach. So a lot of times the preseason polls, you look at the coaches and who you've played and who you played against and what you've seen over time, season after season, and you give respect to those coaches. That's what I do with my polls. I give respect to the coaches, and then once the season plays out, then we'll rank them like that. But in that first preseason poll, I really give a lot of respect to a lot of the coaches and what they did in seasons past with different teams or the same team.
Fair enough. Um, Looking a little bit deeper, we won't go too deep, but if we break it down to the top 35 in the coaches poll, you're adding Memphis at 30. And then on the media side, Memphis just missed out at 26. I'll be honest. They probably are more deserving of the team. One team that's in that bottom five in the top 25. Won't mention that team specifically, obviously. But I think that Memphis probably could have cracked the top 25 in the media poll. And then you have Boise State at 32. So those were the only teams. Well, there's that one other team we are talking about pre-show. I don't really know where to put them, but I said I would acknowledge them, so I will. Washington State, because they're kind of in the middle somewhere. They sit at 18 in the coaches poll and 24 in the media poll. And I think that also fits the bill for what you were describing with Chip, a team that, Tim has had success with them multiple seasons. He had a hell of a run and almost got, you know, had his name in the conversation for a CFP spot.
He definitely
So
did. He
he's had a
definitely
good
did in
run with them.
season 32. Yeah, he definitely had his name considered in the CFP in season 32. Out of respect to him and his team and how he does with his team, he got that ranking. I ranked him as well. So it's just out of respect and what he has done success wise with that team. Now, as far as the team this year, I believe he's going to take a step back. What that step back looks like, I don't know. I would say probably 8 or 9 wins, but he's going to take a step back.
Yeah, there's so many questions that we'll probably dive into both later in this episode and later throughout the season. But just for the top 25, just wanted to give some credit where credit is due to Chip and to Coach Lick, and then also just kind of mention some others that were receiving votes. So there are some G5 teams on the radar. So if they get off to a good start, Memphis,
I want to
Boise,
I want
not
to
definitely
ask
up the
you
call.
before we move on. I want to ask you, do you feel like there should have been another G5 team ranked, or is it good where it's at with just Chip and Tim?
This is a tough one. If there would be one, I would say Joker's because he just moved inside the conference. So I would say Memphis being in the top 25, I don't think I'd have a problem with that. As for the other ones, it's kind of a tough one. So I look at, say, he came with South Florida. I don't really know where to put him. Dealer with Arkansas State. I don't really know where to put him. Pirate flag with Nevada. Boise. I mean, even though he won the conference championship last season, he was closer to a 500 team than a 9 or 10 win team. So it's just tough. The first poll is always the toughest because what do you like? There's no like real right or wrong answer on how to rank teams. I think other than like the top four, at least the top two, the teams that were in the championship. Outside of that,
True.
like the farther you get away from one, the more variance that I could see you having.
Especially, I'll say top five. Once you get out the top five, it's a little bit of difference because most of those coaches go to another team. Like
Yeah,
they'll go to another team, so it's hard to judge how you would be with this new team than how you were with the old team, especially it being a transition over to a new game. You
yes,
know, old game, new game. This is by far the hardest poll because it's a transition not only for certain coaches to certain teams, but from game to game, it's a different game. So
yeah, different game plus the difficulty of changing as well. So a lot of
that
other
is what
factors to consider. Well, one other thing that we wanted to chat about, Coach Jumper from last season. So now we know he is essentially graduated from the G5 and he is now in a power conference. But he came on strong last season, came out of nowhere, went undefeated in the regular season, had two very exciting games against Jokers, one in the regular season, and then the rematch in the conference championship. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a new coach, but Vic, do you see a jumper in the group of five, a guy that can take the team that he has now and parlay that into a top pick in next season's draft?
I feel like it's gonna be a battle within the Sun Belt. I said this on the pod, earlier Outliers pod with RB. I feel like Dealer at Arkansas State and Big Red at Georgia Southern. I feel like those two could be the jumper of season 33. I feel real confident in both of those coaches that they can take the talent that they have and maximize that talent and possibly go undefeated during the regular season. And they may have to play each other because I believe they are on two different sides because the Sun Belt still does divisions. I
Thank you
believe
for doing that.
Arkansas State is in the West and Georgia Southern is in the East, I believe. So they would meet up to possibly potentially have a spot in the CFP on the line. And if I were to guess, I would guess more likely that that is gonna happen than that doesn't happen.
That could be a fun matchup for sure.
What about you?
I
What do you feel?
Well, I will co-sign on that. One thing when looking at the research, I know Dealer has been at Miami for a couple of stints, and he is a good offensive mind. So it's a good match. I mean, it's his favorite team, but it's also a good match in terms of play style and talent. So the fact that he chose Arkansas State to me signals that there was something that he saw in that offensive unit that he could make work for a season. And he's had success in the G5 before. Got a record of 34 and 16. So he knows how to win, whether it be Miami or elsewhere. So I know he's got to be, planning to try to get his way back out there. And this is the path that he's choosing or chosen. I believe that he's trying to set himself up and he'll do a good job of it. One that I am very curious about is Pirate Flag. And especially, I know Pat joked about it in the live chat. but it's almost like a generational clash, if you will. You got the retirement community in the Mountain West, a lot of older guys, a lot of laid back guys that are just, just chilling. They've got a nice thing going. It's really cool to see so many of the teams stay and the coaches staying there and like almost becoming sort of a second family within the NDL. And then Pirate
Yeah,
Flag, it's
I
just that
believe I
distant
believe they
cousin.
only I believe they only had two openings in the draft. They only had two openings. They were the conference that had the least amount of turnover.
Yeah, no surprise there. Like it seemed to be a happy crew. And then now you're adding in Pirate Flag coming off of a 12-1 season, Sun Belt championship. And then, I'd be remiss to say they're a little disappointing with the postseason ban, but now you're getting a chance to reset. You've got the game cycle ending. You're coming into a new one. Okay, you finish your first season in the NDL. This is how it ended for you. Now you get a chance to kind of regroup, go back in, take that feedback, change some things, see if you can parlay Nevada into a top pick, which I know he's hoping to do at Old Dominion, but try number two, I think will go much better. I think he'll take the he'll take the stuff that he learned from the first season, and season two will go well for him.
So we talked about who could be the jumper of season 33. Just in general, from what you've seen so far through the cup and possible scrimmages or people you face, if you face any of the new coaches, who who do you feel like is going to stand out with the new coaches? If played any of them or saw any of them, which one of the new coaches you feel like is going to stand out?
I'm gonna be real honest with you. I don't have one, so I'll defer to you. That was a really tough. It's really tough looking at the landscape of the G5 and trying to pick someone brand new, roster or not. Just it was just really tough. Hopefully, you have someone in
Yeah, I do. I do have someone in mind. I played him in the cup. I let my foot off the gas. Not gonna lie, I definitely let my foot off the gas, and Brett Favre did in the fourth quarter, and that came back to bite me in the ass. But it happens. I don't. It's just a game at the end of the day. But Coach Weasel at Middle Tennessee State, that's the new coach. I've mentioned him before. That is the new coach that I'm really looking forward to. I mentioned him before we even played our game, and after we played our game, I'm even more impressed with him. So I feel like he's gonna be a new coach that really stands out.
Well, I will be looking forward to watching. I just don't. I can't offer a ton of input on that one. Um, I haven't got to see a lot of cup action, like getting over being sick. So it, I just, I'm also anxious for the season to start because I want to see how people play, in the games, once the games start counting, how things look. There's one other coach I wanted to mention, and I guess I'll kind of mention a group. I wanted to shout out D Kane because I have got to see him play a couple of his games. So at least I've been able to see some action. And him going to South Florida, that's another instance of, hey, I didn't get to keep my team from last year. So now I'm coming into a new game and I'm getting to pick the situation that I'm going into. And D Kane, his last two seasons in the G5 were with Temple, and in both he had winning seasons. And his offense has been looking solid. So it's definitely a big change going from Georgia to South Florida, but he seems, from what I've seen so far, to have transitioned pretty well. Also, the Sun Belt in general will be an interesting conference. You have Jason coming back with James Madison. So another year with those guys. Do things change for him and get better? We'll have to see. He did have a good season last season. Also, Louisiana Raging Cajuns Ninja Nano coming back. He was in the conference championship game against Old Dominion last season. And then Boss Ranger could be a sneaky one, sneaking in there with Old Dominion. They've had a good run the last couple of seasons in the NDL.
Yeah,
Pirate
yeah.
Flag last season, the season before with MC. So you're looking at almost like a lineage here, and Boss Ranger trying to add to that. But the big overarching story that you touched on, I think, is something that will be kind of the lead for the group of five. A lot of new coaches are always going to be in the G5. That's just how it is. Less, no, it's just how it is. If you're a new coach, you're probably coming in and getting a bad team in terms of overall. So who's going to stand out? I think that's the question. I'm really curious to see because there are a lot of new coaches, and I'm excited to see how things go for them this season.
Speaking of coaches, my next question to you is: will this be the season that Chip Dr. Bush will make the CFP?
Ooh, that is a good question. That is a really tough one too. I want to say yes, I really do. But there's two things that make me pause for the moment. First of all, for those of you that don't know, two things. Chip is one of the friendliest trash talkers that you'll ever see or listen to while he's playing his games. It's actually pretty hilarious.
Oh, he is
It's worth
amazing.
it.
He is amazing.
You
The
have to catch
pregame,
one.
the pregame radio DJ during the game, post game, he gives you everything you need.
He really does. It's a great watch. If you only get to watch one Central Michigan game, doesn't matter which team it's against, do it. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't watch a CMU game. So that said, some do not know, especially some of the newer guys in the league. Chip is actually a student at Central Michigan. So he knows the team very well. And that's going to be important because in terms of ratings, this team has taken a step back. So talent wise, they're not as good as they were on last year's game. But his knowledge of the team, if you've ever talked with Chip or just listen to him talk about CMU, he knows them in and out. So
Yes.
that's a big
Yes.
advantage for him, especially with a G5 team, because when you're playing with a great team, there's talent everywhere. When you're playing with a lesser team, you don't have that talent. It's really where do guys fit and can you get the most out of them? And he has done a really good job of that since he's been at Central Michigan. There's that. But the one thing I'm concerned about, and it's just hard not to be with a group of five, is you have a group of new coaches in the MAC. So I feel like we've had this conversation last season, and we're going to run it back this season.
I mean, he's handled that well, though. I feel like he's handled that well. Being that the MAC has that and probably Conference USA have the most turnover per conferences. Like the MAC and the Conference USA have the most turnover season over season. So I feel like he's adapted and adjusted to that. So I don't feel like that's gonna really be a problem. Now, with the ratings how they are right now, it may be a problem, but scheming and coaching wise, I don't feel like it's gonna really be a problem from him per se because he's already adapted and adjusted to that because it's so much turnover in the MAC, and he's been the only mainstay really.
Yeah, he has that leg up. It'll be interesting. It's just when you play someone for the first time, just having to adjust on the fly can be difficult. He made the
Yeah,
adjustment last season against Higgins and got his get back in the rematch. But we'll have an instance in this one of kind of what we had last season. The AAC, we kind of talked about them a little bit early on, but not as much as we did as the season went on. And then you had Jokers was ranked, Florida Atlantic was ranked with Jumper. You had Tulane ranked with West. Can someone for which can you get enough wins out of the rest of the MAC conference to make the conference look good? So when you have that conversation, you start to compare resumes. It helps chip out when we get to that point in the season. That's going to be, I think that'll be one talking point. And the other thing, like obviously the AAC had the reputation last season. You have jokers rotating within the conference. You add Kane. There's a lot of like top tier coaching talent that's joining the G5 this season. It's going to be a fun watch. I think it definitely helps Chip to already be ranked. So at this point, he's going to have to, get off to a good start, maintain, and let the chips fall where they may. And that ranking could help him by the time we get to the end of the season if he's able to do what he needs to do.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I feel like he's gonna contend for the MAC championship, but we shall see. As far as CFP concerns, we shall see. We will definitely touch on his chances a little bit later in the pod.
Well, this is just like a random thing that I just thought about when looking at stuff around the league. One of the cool things that we don't get to do too often is welcome new franchises or universities into the NDL. And this season, we're adding Missouri State and Delaware. So, two new teams, which are important to me because what really got me excited when I sat and thought about it was if I had this team, when I pull up the stats, the history, I'm at the very top of the list. I set the tone for their existence in the NDL. And what do you know? They're both new coaches. So that's
Yeah.
also something nice to have. You have Coach Kool Aid at Delaware, and then you have No Way Jose at Missouri State. So I pose the question to you: do either of these teams have a winning season?
Oh, oh God, a winning season. Oh,
You only get one first impression.
you do. Oh, man. A winning season. So do we consider 500 a winning season? Like they go 6-6?
But Mike Tomlin, yeah, we can do that.
Okay. I
A
can I can
non-losing season.
I can see No Way Jose, and that's just gonna be your name on the outliers. We know it's just Jose, but it's No Way Jose for both of us. So I feel like Coach No Way Jose at Missouri State is gonna get it done. I feel like he's gonna go at least 6-6 and get it done in the Conference USA. The best thing about these two new teams is they're going to a lower tier, like the lowest tier G5 conference. Conference USA is the lowest tier conference in FBS. So for new teams coming towards CUSA, I feel like that's a good thing. And it's even a better thing in the game because you can just scheme it all the way up. You can just scheme it all the way up to how you play. And if you can make the other person play your style and have to adapt and adjust to you, then that's winning half the battle. And I feel like Coach Jose over there in Missouri State could have at least a 6-6 season. What about you? Do you feel like either one of those teams can finish at least 6-6?
I'll be honest with you. I think they both can. Now, I don't think it'll be easy, clearly. But Missouri State's a 69 overall. Delaware's a 7. Their defenses are both rated 64. They're going to have to put up points. Just bottom line. They're going to have to put up points. And let's be honest, that's, college football. That's what it's about. It's about putting up points and knowing that they're not facing, great defenses for the majority of the season. They're going to get a lot of opportunities to do so. The key thing to me, and it tends to be that way in the G5, can you win the turnover battle? So not throw interceptions and get them. And are you able to run the ball well enough to stay out of the super obvious passing downs, the third and longs, where you can just pin your ears back, drop 8 back, maybe drop 7 back, and force a throw into coverage? Man, it's going to be tough. They both play Liberty, and Liberty's a 10-win goal, which is, but I mean, you're playing Liberty. Missouri State's playing Mizzou. Like, that's just evil. But outside of that, like most of the other games are really close in rating. Oh, it wouldn't be crazy to say. Now, I don't think it's likely, but I can see a path to both, and it's going to have to be the offenses being efficient, putting up points. And what you said is right earlier. They're in the right conference. You're not, facing a bunch of, veteran coaches like you would if you were in the Sun Belt or potentially in the AAC. If you're going to do it, it would be in this conference. That'd be your best chance. So I'm rooting for both of them. We'll have to see what happens. And just a note, Missouri State, their win goal is, well, it's actually 2 because that's the lowest you can have. But their win goal is 1, and Delaware's is 3.5. So even if they don't have great seasons, they could say, hey, I parlayed this team into a solid, draft pick. So still a lot to be happy for, and kudos to both of you for getting the honor of being the first coach to play with them in the NDL. Pretty cool. Now, I did bring up Missouri State playing Missouri, and that'll be a transition into the next topic. So, we know probably won't see as much of it on this year's game, maybe as we've seen in years past. But for the G5, especially if you're looking to try to crack the CFP, the question is the resume. What makes your resume stand out more than the opposition? And one way of going about that is getting wins against power conference teams. So I ask you, Vic, if you were a G5 team and you were planning, you get an OOC game against a P4, you schedule it. What is your path to trying to find a way to score the upset?
Well, earlier when you sent the rundown and I saw that question, it made me really think about it. I detailed it and thought about it as a person who has, as a G5, upsetted a P4 in the Beefy Cup, at least. Um, and sort of say in season as well. Um, I will say, and came close last season. I would say it's a combination of things. It's user, it's the coach. Like, do you feel like you can do well versus said coach? No matter the team, can you at least do well? Do you feel like you have a chance against the other coach? Do you want to test yourself? Or do you want to scale it back and play bottom to mid tier P14? Because you can play the Northwestern. If you're Tulsa, you could play Northwestern and probably win and say, yeah, I got to win against the P14. But it's Northwestern, at the end of the day. So it's like, do you want to challenge yourself? How far do you want to challenge yourself? I feel like getting a mid level or middle of the pack team in a P4 conference is where you set the standard. For example, I played Penguin, and shout out to Penguin at Coach Penguin at Iowa State. I played him. We played each other one time. I believe it was some type of tournament, and we had a good game against each other. Had a good back and forth. I liked it that. I liked the back and forth that we had. It was a good competitive game. I loved it. So I wanted to run it back in season. And so we ran it back in season. I was fully prepared. I knew what to expect for the most part, just off how he plays. Because he's a good player. He's not a bad player. I'm not saying he's bad or anything like that. This is no shade, no nothing. It's just we're competitive against each other when we play. So I felt like it was a good game. It wasn't going to be a 35-point game at half. So when we got to the game and I was ahead, the one thing you don't do in game is run trips to the short side. I remember that very well. Shout out to Coach Petty, aka Pat. I have learned that lesson. I took your knowledge, sir, and definitely not did that anymore. Because in that game, I had to lead at least a two-score lead and was driving. And then I ran trips to the short side, and boy, did that shit get picked off. And after that, momentum change. He had all the momentum, came back, won in double overtime. I was a yard short in double overtime. That's how I lost it. As a G5 being Sam Houston State against a Power Four on the road. I was also on the road. I feel like if you're going to play someone on the road, play someone that doesn't have too much of a home field advantage so it won't get confusingly loud so you're able to hot route and audible when you need to. What do you feel like is the main ingredient or ingredients to have success as a G5 against a Power 4 team?
I think there's four parts to it. I had to try to narrow it down. I got bullet points here. The first part is momentum, and that's definitely the thing to me that can make the game just completely tail off extremely fast. You have to keep the game close. It's to me, it's going to be hard to blow out a P4 team. It's important to have a good start to the game and to not let yourself get out of it. So when I say good start, I'm not necessarily mean you got to go up like 14 nothing or 14-3. You just have to be able to move the ball, be able to continue to be competitive in field position and keep it within a score. You cannot let things get out of control, especially when it feels like watching a G5 team against a P4 team. When things get out of control, then that's when the bad things start to happen. You have drops. You'll have a guy not block. You'll have a quarterback just airmail a throw, skip a throw, a defender dropping an interception, like just little things like that. In the grand scheme of a game with, 60 plus plays, it may not seem like a big deal, but when you're playing against a team that has more talent than you, Those things matter because when you have an opportunity to win a play, you need to win it. You can't give up free plays. You give up too many of them, it shifts momentum and then it makes it extremely hard to get it back or even to get it back to neutral. So keeping momentum in check is one. And I think to me, that's the biggest thing, especially if you're on the road, like you said. Two, and I know this is something that doesn't get talked about a lot, user play. If you're facing a team with more talent, you have to make your team play better. It's going to probably stand out more on the defensive side of the ball and obviously on offense in the open field. You have to get the best out of the player that you're controlling. So that means defensively, making tackles, making the proper reads, breaking up pass plays, or forcing turnovers, whether it be a hit stick or a user pick. On offense, you got to get those extra yards because you're probably going to have a hard time stopping the other team from getting extra yards. So you have to get them when the opportunities present themselves. Three is trench play, and it goes on both sides of the ball because usually to me that a lot of people look at the skill positions because it's just the amount of speed that a P4 team may have collectively in comparison to a G5 team. But to me, it all starts in the trenches. That's where football is built. That's where everything starts. If your offensive line can't hold up in the run game or the pass game, it's going to be extremely difficult. If that's the case, you have to be able to adapt on the fly with your play calling to take pressure off your quarterback, take pressure off your running back. And then defensively, it's super important on the other side because if you're losing up front, it probably means you're going to have to start bringing more guys in the box, and that exposes you to big plays. So being able to reasonably compete in the trenches. And I'm going to be honest, the last one is luck. A lucky bounce here, a lucky drop here. Take whatever you can get and hope the combination of the four gets you a win or at least gets you into the fourth quarter in a one score game. Because I tell you what, if you're in a one score game in the fourth quarter, you're not sweating. That other coach is sweating. They don't want to be the one to
True.
lose to a lesser school. You have
That is true.
everything to gain and nothing to lose. All the pressure will be on them.
Now once it hit overtime, now that's a different story.
Yeah.
But yes, you are right.
So those for me, those are the ingredients to try to score the upset.
I love it. I love it. That was a great question. That was a definitely great question. I hope the new coaches definitely heard what we said. Especially for this season, if you scheduled a Power Four, or for upcoming seasons, if you're gonna stay or bounce around the G5 and schedule Power Four teams. I hope what we said helps you out a lot.
For their sake, I hope so too, because it's definitely an uphill battle. But it's a challenge worth accepting. Now, with that said, we pivot to block one. So I may have to rephrase the question because of one of the games I put on there. Because when you brought it up, I'm like, yeah, that's really not, that wouldn't really qualify as that. So let's modify the question just a tad. So we do have some P4 versus G5 matchups. Of the matchups in the first block, which P4 teams do you think should be very cautious going into said game?
I literally forgot that this was a game in Block One, and I used them as an example in the question before. Northwestern is definitely on upset alert. Tulsa is. I don't. I couldn't tell you. I haven't watched the coach fully yet. I will. Don't worry. It's gonna happen. I watch a lot of games. Anybody can tell you from last season and moving forward, I will be watching a lot of games. I will watch basically all of you this season. But these are two brand new coaches, I believe. And I feel like it's going to be a game of trying to figure it out in the first half. And if the head coach for Tulsa can figure it out faster than the coach at Northwestern, then I feel like he's going to pull out the upset.
It's that one that one thing that always makes me nervous. Oh, Northwestern, he's returning because
Okay. Okay.
he had Duke last season. Um, I'm assuming he had Duke in hopes of being able to try to parlay them into this year's game, with the improvements.
Yeah.
But he's at Northwestern now, so it's like two. Oh man, I cannot have a live chat open while doing that. Pat definitely caught me off guard with that. Okay, so you
Oh my
have
God. Oh my God.
you have
Oh my God.
Narc Narkin has got to learn Northwestern. He's learning them on the fly. And Brady laughs at chat. Yeah, he saw it too. So you have Narcan learning on the fly, a new team. And then you're facing a G5 team, which you probably don't have any knowledge of. And it's a brand new coach. It's like the double whammy. You don't even know how this guy is going to play. You have nothing to go off of because it's block one. And it's a team that like, let's be honest, how many people even know the team name for Tulsa? So it's puts you in a weird situation because you're trying to, as you said, learn on the fly, and you're going to have to do it during the game. That is one that probably has me pretty nervous. Narcan's a pretty cool dude. I've got to interact with him a couple times, but man, like it's tough when you're facing a team you don't know a lot about or a coach because you're trying to piece all this stuff together while playing the game. Who knows how things are going to turn out? Now, this is an odd one for me because if you really ask me, I'm going to tell you Iowa's going to win because they're just a more talented team. But I think this is an interesting matchup against Old Dominion. The reason why is because Iowa is a weird team. They're a better team, but they're weird in the fact that it's just hard to pass with them. This is something that Big Red struggled with when he had him last season. It's driving him nuts out of conference because just trying to figure out what to do with the passing game with the damn quarterback. He fixed it and got going once conference play started. But
Yes.
they're just a weird team because it's just hard to pass the ball with them in a
So
game where
suppose
you're trying to put up points.
so supposedly in real life they fixed the issue with the passing game, but we will see if it translates to the NDL life with the ratings. Like supposedly, uh Gronowski is supposed to be the guy, kind of a dual threat guy. Um, hopefully he could be the guy. Mouton steps in for Johnson at running back, so he should be able to get over the hump in ODU. He definitely should be able to get over the hump. But ODU has a bad man in that backfield,
Mhm.
and he can take over a game as we saw all of season 32. He can take over a game at any time and all the time.
Here's the weird part about this, and this is what makes this particular matchup intriguing to me. So I've watched Boss Ranger play a bit, doing the Sports Center stuff. So I've got to watch him play a bit. And he's a solid defensive user and he likes to run the ball. The problem is the trench play. Iowa's just better. So the question is he going to be able to get his run game going? And what is he going to do to be able to slow Iowa? So as bad as it can possibly be passing the ball at Iowa, I mean, it's got to be easier when you have to bring a bunch of people in the box to try to slow down the run game. Their offensive line has been really good. If you look at, man, last season or last year's game with Wilds, what he was able to do with Caleb ridiculous. And I got to experience. I played him in the cup with Tulane, so I can relate to G5 versus P4. There are a lot of runs where I'm trying to fight through a offensive lineman just to get the opportunity to touch Johnson, let alone actually try to tackle him. So how is that gonna look with Old Dominion? But the reason this intrigues me, Coach Lone. Last season he had Minnesota. He was 4-8. When he had West Virginia, he was 1-10. So he struggled in his past two experiences in the Power Four. How is it gonna be against Old Dominion? It's a team on paper that he should beat. But from what I've seen in close games, he struggled to be able to come up with a big play to put games away. If Old Dominion's able to hang around, Boss makes a play defensively with an interception or comes up with a big catch and run in the open field to flip field position. If that game's close in the fourth quarter, I don't know. I think Old Dominion might have the recipe to score an upset there.
Yeah, being that one man in that backfield, Devin Roche, is the man that I'm talking about, is a powerful weapon in the run game. He could balance out the time of possession and how many possessions that each team will get. Because if Iowa isn't able to stop the run, then it's going to be a problem for them. And then you're going to have to rely on that new and revamped passing attack, which may not be so revamped as we think it will be. So, like I said, Mouton taking over for Johnson will be a reliable runner in the backfield. He can tote the mail, he can carry the rock. He's going to be able to be there for you in the end to get a first down when you need it. If it's a close game, 17-17, 24-23, or something like that, and you need a first down, I feel like Mouton can give you that first down. But it'll be interesting to see if we get into one of those situations, tight situations, what will he do?
It's going to be interesting. That's probably the one that I am most intrigued to watch, where I have no bias. Well, since we're talking about bias, I guess I'll bring up the other game because this is the reason why the question had to be modified. Another one that I'm really curious to watch is Georgia Tech and Boise State. And yes, you are correct. This will not be considered an upset if Boise State wins. I underestimated their rating, and it's actually quite depressing looking at how many impact players they have in comparison to some P4 teams.
Yeah,
It's quite wild.
that that stood out, and I said that before we start recording. That is that an upset because I looked at their rating pretty early, and it was not because I was going to take them or anything like that. Because Coach Rock stayed, and he's been the main. Other than Chip, he's basically them two or the Mount Rushmore. We don't have the other two people yet. But those two are the Mount Rushmore, the G5 and the NDL, especially the new version. Now it may be uh two fellas in the older seasons that may fill out that Mount Rushmore, and we could probably get to that in another episode. But I feel like these two are definitely candidates for the Mount Rushmore of the G5 in the NDL. He's been a mainstay, like I said, without Genty though. Now Genty
Oh,
was
good God, Genty.
a
You're already giving
meta
me a headache
human.
bringing up his name.
Genty was a meta human. That's what Genty was when it came to NCAA 25 and in real life in the Mountain West. Even I was sweating out a bit the under bet on his rushing yards against Penn State, and I had to sweat that out. That's how much of a meta human he was in college. Will it translate to the pros? That's a whole nother question, whole nother pod. Different. But can he develop a new running game without Genty? That's the main question. Can the running game succeed even half as much as it did with just Genty? Genty was pumping out on average at least 2,800 yards per season the last like 3 seasons. So can he have a rushing product that's equal to half of that? So let's say 1,400 yards, 1,500 yards. Can he have that type of runner this season with that attack? And will Mad Max at quarterback be consistent enough to balance out their running game?
You pose good questions, and the answer is a lazy answer for me. We'll see. I think Matt Lauder will definitely be a guy to keep an eye on for Boise State. That's the tight end. I think that he'll be more involved in the passing game. And then Sherrod, he has speed, but he doesn't have. I think it's hard to ask for that given what we saw with Genty last season, his breakaway ability in terms of literally breaking away from tackles. But Boise State's offensive line, in comparison to a lot of the G5 teams, should be able to create holes. So it should look, I think it looks different. I don't think it'll be Genty level, what we saw in terms of touchdowns and yardage. I think it'll still be productive. IROC has always been a run first guy, and he has really like carved out the other end of the spectrum from Jeff Daddy and being a guy that I'm going to run the ball and we're going to build an offense off of that and be able to have some success. And this is a good matchup because Georgia Tech also likes to run the ball. And not only does he like to run the ball, but he has a quarterback that he can run it with too. So it's a different look. You don't just have Haynes. You also have a quarterback that's able to run the option, some confusion in terms of reading correctly, pitch, no pitch, read option, power option, just a lot of things you can do with that type of quarterback. And ultimately, the question will be which ground game will get going in this matchup. Maybe they both do, but which one is able to consistently have more success? And then always, when you have a run first team, at some point, you always say it, some point, you got to be able to pass the ball. Who's going to be able to hit those key passes on third downs or a big chunk play set up by, running out of formation X or set Y? Who's going to be able to hit the big pass plays that change the field? Should be a really interesting matchup. Boise's at home, so the blue turf may play a factor. Definitely will have my eyes on that one. Any other games you're looking at, babe?
I'm looking at a fellow media member and my guy CG and his week 1 matchup with our guy Chip, Dr. Bush.
Ooh,
That's an interesting game. Michigan State is a mid-tier or middle of the road Power 4 team going against a G5 team. Don't know if they played each other and have similar like good matchups against each other, so I don't know that. But this looked like the recipe game that we were talking about as far as trying to get an upset. Will he get an upset? No. I think Chip is going to lose here. This may be his only loss, but I feel like Chip is going to lose here. I feel like the talent level on in the trenches between the O line and D line between Michigan State and Central Michigan will be the difference in this one. What do you think?
yeah, Chip getting the run game going it'll be interesting to see if he can. Because if Chip once Chip gets the run game going, he really gets rolling on offense. So pressure definitely there, and then it's on the road. That really surprised me when I saw this matchup 'cause I could have swore that Central Michigan was going to be at home, but to go on the road and play at Michigan State, accepting the challenge, it should be a fun watch. The big key for me, I think, is turnovers. Who wins the turnover battle? I think it was it's a stat. I know it's different for a video game, of course, because probably turn the ball over at a higher rate than they do in real life. Plus
Yeah.
three, you have a 95% chance of winning a game. I don't think it will be plus or minus three for either team, but who's going to be able to come up with turnovers, whether it's fumbles, whether it's interceptions, or failed fourth downs? Who's able to come up with them? I think that's one that will be an interesting watch to see. And then I think this is also another instance of where a Heisman will make this game a little more interesting because I know we've seen a patch recently to improve run blocking. That's what was said in the campus huddle. How much of an improvement, I'm not sure, but it's definitely different running the ball in general on All American versus Heisman. I'm really curious to see that rushing attack against the Spartans.
Yeah. I'm curious to see that as well. I mean, like I said, with the ratings boost going down for Central Michigan in this game, I think it's going to be tougher for him to try to pull off an upset against a G5. I mean, Power 14.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking about it. So Brady says in chat, he brings up a good point. Um, for the Mount Rushmore for the G5, he brought up Big Z, two-time Mountain
Yeah,
West champ. And I'm
yeah,
gonna give a shout
my
out to a
guy.
guy that we don't mention much, and I think both old school and new school, he would be G5 because he's never gonna leave UConn. Dave, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I say, it could be some guys that are from the older versions of the game that the older guys probably know, that guys that stayed in G5 and were dominant. So, shout out to whoever those guys may be. It's no disrespect or nothing like that to those guys, but because I don't know, because I joined in season 29 when everything got restarted back. So I don't know about those older guys or anything like that from season 10 through 17. So shout out to those guys, but I feel like those are good candidates as well for the Mount Rushmore.
yeah. I also now that I bring that up, so Brady, thanks for getting me on this train of thought now. I want to give a shout out to a couple of guys because there is one thing that we tend to not see a lot in the G5. So there's usually when a coach takes a G5 team, it's for the bigger picture. It's to set up for something better. There are some coaches who are taking a team that is either their favorite team or a team that, or I should say, a university that they went to, graduated from, whatever. So I don't have the full list. So I'm gonna admit this right away. But super cool to see. Well, of course, Dave staying at UConn. That's no surprise there. Like I said, he's never gonna leave. Only way he leaves them is if he leaves the league, and he's not gonna do that. So he's a lifer. You've got UNLV and Blackburn, lifer.
Yeah,
Big Z
yeah,
probably, I'm guessing, is a lifer. because he graduated from SDSU. Me and him have talked in DM, so it's pretty cool to see another SDSU alum. And then there's a couple of teams that have like you have jokers moving within the conference, so he stayed in the AAC. You've got Ice staying with Navy, trying to get something working with the option, which I feel bad about because I know it's tougher to run on the game this year. It's definitely not helping for the option style offenses for sure. But damn it, he's trying to make it work. You've got, and then of course the Mountain West as a whole. There's so many guys returning. I don't even want to like get into the names, but a lot of returners. So you love to see that. And then returners in the Sun Belt. You got Jason returning at James Madison. You got Ninja Nano returning with the Raging Cajuns. Oh, you Texas State, like you love to see teams actually or coaches staying in the G5. I feel like
Yes.
it I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying being in the ACC. We have a great group of guys there. But playing in the G5, it just felt different. It just felt like you were just kind of your own thing. Like you had the cool kids, the jocks that were, the power conferences, so to speak. And then you have the other groups that get along really well. And those are the G5s, conferences and seeing guys willing to stay in a G5 conference or to keep the same team. It's a really cool thing to see.
So I guess we're the cool guys
Well,
that loves the
they're the cool
little
guys
guys.
because I'm I'm at Florida State, so I'm not cool anymore. I will or
What? Whoa, 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 whoa.
I know you're an
Yes,
FSU fan. I'm
yes, you
sorry.
are. Yes, you are. You are cool. Let's take it down a notch there. Whoa, whoa. You are that. You are cool.
And we'll add
I
in
don't know.
Washington
I don't
State
know
and
if
Oregon
I'm
State.
cool. I don't know if I'm the cool guy at West Virginia. I don't know if that's cool, but we both love the G5, and that's where it's at. I mean, the last question, we can bundle both of them up together.
Okay.
Um, what block one matchup, G5 matchup, excites you, and what team are you intrigued by this season? What's your I'm gonna put a pin on this team, or I'm gonna ride with this team for the whole year, for the whole season. What team intrigues you that much in the G5?
Well, let me let me be lazy and answer the other part of the question first. So give me time to rethink my answer. So first, shout out to Washington State and Oregon State. Look, we know you guys are in the pack. You don't have a home right now. We're gonna give you a home. We respect you guys as well. They're included in the bunch. Good coaches there too. Now, to answer your question. So the first part, which matchup G5 versus G5 excites me the most? There's two. And I know that they're game of the weeks, but it's just really hard not to choose them for obvious reasons. One is South Florida and Arkansas State. That's a week 2 game. Arkansas State's at home. Two high level coaches. As I've got to see South Florida play, so I've already seen D Kane's offense looking like it's a fully oiled machine. And haven't seen Arkansas State yet, but I've seen enough of Dealer to know that he knows what he's doing on offense. And as I said earlier, he picked that team. There's something that he saw with those players. It's a really interesting matchup. It could potentially maybe have CFP implications depending on how the rest of the season goes. I'd have to say, especially in terms of coaches, that's a pretty big matchup to have early in the season. Now, as for the team, I'm going to give you two teams. I don't know how many teams you're looking at, but I'm going to give you two. Old Dominion and Boss Ranger. I was high on him last season when we had our media draft. I picked him. He went 7-6. He's had 3 winning seasons in a row.
Yeah.
And can he replicate it again? We'll have to see. And he's in the Sun Belt, and there are some pretty good coaches there. I think he's a solid coach. They said he runs the ball well. He is a pretty good open field tackler defensively, and he's a solid user on that side of the ball too, just in general. I definitely think that he can make some noise in the Sun Belt. But even if he doesn't win the conference, I know that is not an easy matchup. That's a trap game, potentially, if people aren't paying attention. So that's definitely one guy to keep an eye on. The second guy for me is a question mark, as it probably should be. Now, he had a bad season last season. It was after being, knocking on the door for a CFP spot for a couple of seasons. He dropped off last season, went 8-6, but still made the Mountain West Championship. But he did lose this time. So 3 seasons with San Diego State, 3 trips to the Mountain West Championship game. Now, they don't have the speed at running back that they had last season. You lose Pope and you get Acevedo. I don't think Acevedo is as good. So I think that's a lesser weapon at receiver in terms of speed because he was able to open the top off on in the Mountain West. Man, he was he was over there looking like Deshaun Jackson in the Mountain West. I'm not even exaggerating. Dangerous, dangerous. My question is quarterback. Does he start Berto Manuel Jr.? And if he does, that adds something very dynamic to the group. So speaking of Central Michigan taking a step back, that's one of them. You're losing a real, true dual threat quarterback. That is, that opens up the option. That makes him very dangerous in the passing game if he gets outside the pocket. I'm curious to see how that offense looks with San Diego State because they have a lot of changing parts. I'm curious. So I have my eye on him to see if he bounces back. It could have been you know, the fourth season lull. We'll have to see.
Yeah. It definitely could have been. The matchup I'm looking forward to the most we already talked about it earlier. No need to really harping on that. And of course, I'm looking at it for personal interest. Is Michigan State and Central Michigan. That's the Block One matchup I'm most excited about. The teams I'm most excited about. I'm really excited about the dynamic of Dealer and Big Red in the Sun Belt. I'm excited for the MAC as a whole. Who's gonna meet Chip in the MAC championship? Also, I love the dynamic in the American as well. So you got the American, you got the MAC, and you got the Sun Belt. But another team I'm really just intrigued by the whole year, and I've talked about their rating and everything like that, is Boise. That's the team I'm putting a pin in, and just like I'm looking for that team to dominate, especially in conference. I don't even look at this Georgia Tech game as an upset. That's how high I feel about Boise in this game and in the NDL this season. That's the team I'm looking forward to the most.
That's fair. I'm gonna pose one last thing to you real quick. We didn't talk about this, so I'm sorry you don't get any prep.
That's all good.
So a couple weeks ago, we were talking about the cup, and it would be nicer to see more cup games getting played. We all we s- I hate that we say this every season because you should want to play your cup games because you should want to get your guys out on the field and actually see what they look like. Like I tell you right now, I've only been able to get in one cup game, and we're about to start the season. I would love to or have gotten my other two games in just so I can get a spin with these guys so I could feel a little more confident in, how I would like to ideally play with. But we'll leave that alone because I want to take it I want to take this conversation to the cup. So one of the most frustrating things from a G5 perspective, we'll speak from you guys, is having to be put in a group that is a group from hell. That you're just basically getting your digital players party. Like I just being honest, like you're just put in a no-win situation because it's just impossible. There's just no way. I'm trying to look through real quick and see if I can find a group like that. There was one, man, I want to say like someone had Georgia and like Bama or like two top
Yeah,
SEC teams, and it's like
yeah.
you have one of the worst teams in the game, and you're playing two of the best teams in the game, and legitimately you're just running cardio. So me and Bierkoff were talking, and I got to thinking, and I just want to propose this to you and get your thoughts on it. We may have talked about this off camera last week, but just get the thoughts on the pod. So I had the thought of instead of having what we've had for the cup, because it's in need of some revamping, because we've had, essentially low attendance, just trying to get out of the group play. Once we're out of group, things are fine. But getting games played in the group, Brady had said it was Akron, so that was the team. Couldn't remember. It's like they were in the
I feel
group.
like I feel like any group with Akron is the group of death. I feel like Akron gets put in the group of death more than any other team because it's just like, okay, you're Akron, okay,
Alphabetical order, suffer.
yeah.
Ian. But I had an idea. So we were kind of like somehow we caught on the topic of war games. I'm like, you know what? Instead of doing, I don't know how you would do this because you'd have to balance things out. But right now we have 32. So I don't know how you would do it where the pools are even. But instead of having me play in a group and advance to a bracket, why not put
Hmm.
groups together based off of team ratings? And what I mean is like two higher rated teams and
Hmm.
two, lower rated G5 teams. So then what happens is instead of them playing each other, it's a team. So I guess maybe you'd have to have five, or if you did four, the tiebreaker would be the point differential. Team
Yeah.
A plays team B from the other team. B versus B, C versus C, So you're playing teams of reasonable overall.
What would be the team example of this? Give me 14 a 4 team example of this so I
Yeah.
can just like contextualize everything.
Okay. Let me go up the standings real quick just so I can have a full list of teams in my face. So, for example, I would say, of course, I'm gonna have to go to the extreme, but we'll say like Bama is on one team, on team A. Bama would take on Clemson from team B. Then you would have BYU versus maybe Nebraska. So those are your P4 matchups. And then the P5, maybe you have Miami of Ohio taking on James Madison, South Alabama taking on UTEP. I'd have
So
to look at the
Bam
ratings,
so
but it's like you
uh,
don't have that
so
huge disparity in rating.
So Bama, BYU, South Alabama, and Miami, Ohio on one team, and then the other teams are on the other team.
Yeah. And then they
Okay,
face each
okay.
other, and then if it's 4 versus 4, the tiebreaker, if it's 2-2, is point differential. If you have
But
5 teams,
but
the difference is whoever wins, 3 games.
but you would possibly have teams that play each other in season play each other in that before season
That's one of the
in
hard
that
things
tournament.
about the cup because
Because
it's hard to avoid
it
even
wouldn't
without it.
it would probably even itself out on the G5 side, but it wouldn't even itself out on the Power Four side.
Where there's fewer teams.
Yeah, and
That's one of those unfortunate.
it's bigger conferences and not necessarily fewer teams, but it's bigger conferences. So you would have, like, for example, you would have, if you're going in some type of order or randomization, you would have um BYU playing UCF, and then they would play in the season. Like, I don't know, I don't know if you would get too hyped for that, knowing that you would have to play this person again in season.
It'd be tough, but we also deal with that in the cup now too. So
But we deal
it's
with
like
that
one of
late.
those things
But,
that's in
but
it's like
we
hard to avoid. It's almost impossible to avoid. If you advance,
but, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But we have that during the advancement. That's already in season more than likely than before season. See, we would have it more before season, kind of like how the cup was before it got revamped before the beginning of last season. How you would have the two teams in the same conference in a group. It'll kind of be like that. I don't. It is an interesting idea. I do like that, being that you have teams, like you have high tier power four, mid tier power four, high tier G5, mid low tier G5 on the same team, battling out for points against another team with the same lineup. I like that. I do like that. But I propose this for you, because we did talk about that last week.
okay.
Me and you, just it wasn't recorded, but we did talk about that. And I do like that idea. I do. I just don't know. It would have to be a good workaround with the Power Four team. It'll have to be a good workaround because, especially like in the conference I'm in, the Big 12, where you have 9 conference games. So you're more than likely made. That's why I set that example of BYU and UCF. You're more than likely to play somebody in season before the season. And like you said, the turnout for, even though this season, the turnout for group play has been better than previous seasons. But instead of a tournament where it's group play and stuff like that, having a team, that would be good if you can avoid that. But I propose this to you, and we were in it. What if we, in instead of the tournament, what if we propose a rule? Not a rule, but what if we propose conference versus conference? And if you remember in season 30, we were in that style of tournament where it was conference versus conference. What do you think about that? Like the Mountain West versus who we played? The Sun Belt. Mountain West versus Sun Belt and Mac versus CUSA and American versus whatever the new version of the Pac-12 would be. And then you go Big Ten versus SEC, ACC versus Big 12.
I wouldn't be opposed to that,
And not
but
have every team play each other, but have a group vote in the conference chats on who would the I'll say six. Who would the six guys be to represent the conference?
I wouldn't be opposed to that. There's, I think the one thing,
Could possibly make it eight, but I say yeah, 6 or 8 is a good number. So eight, we'll go with eight. Go with 8 guys because everybody has at least 8 teams. So go with 8 guys to represent the conference versus the other conference and their 8 guys. And you would put a vote in the conference chat. That way you'll get all the conference chats booming and talkative. And you put it to a vote. We vote on the top 8. They go against the other conferences top 8 that they would want representing that conference, and then they go at it.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. There's only two things that would give me cause to pause. One is I'm not an NDL lifer. I've been around for a while, but I'm not an OG. It, I guess, it's the traditional list in me that we've always had a tournament and then just not having the cup at all would kind of suck. But then the
Yeah,
problem
I
is
mean,
has been
yeah,
the attendance, and it's like that's just something that ultimately is going to have to get fixed. Like, what can you do to intrigue people to
I,
want to
I,
play these
I,
games?
I feel like that'll be more intriguing. I love the cup. There's nothing wrong with the cup. I feel like you could move the cup to you can move the cup to the end of the season, or you could possibly move the cup to the end of the last season in the game cycle, being that we have such a lull between games because it was what, like a month, 2 months, maybe a month and a half, right? Between like the national championship and now whoever kicks it off tomorrow. It's been
Yeah.
like a month and a half at least.
But that's all the more reason that I'm just looking at it like, man, for all this time that we've waited, you the cup
But
games,
we
you
we
got to
we've
do
had
your
a
out
lot
of
of cup
conference.
game though. We've had a lot of cup game. It's some it I'll say we've had more cup games this season than I've seen the last 2 seasons. Like
Well,
I was able to get all of my cup games before the start of the season. I couldn't say that the last 2 seasons.
and that's going to my point because as we've gone through the game, the attendance in the cup is going down where people are more focused on the regular season and they're seeing it as a chore as opposed to, like, I'll be honest, this is going to sound bad. I'm sorry. I don't take, like, I never play to lose. We've had this conversation off stream. I never play to lose. So it's not like I'm trying to lose cup games. But I definitely know that I play different in a cup game versus what I do in the regular season because I don't play a ton of scrimmages. Like you're never gonna see me high up on the blitz ladder. So cup games for me function almost as a scrimmage. So it's my chance to be able to try new stuff and to get my team out and take a spin. Um, I like it
See
in the
what
beginning because you have people that are super excited, they're ready to get on the field. But then as you get into that third season, well, last year was the fourth season, but in the third season, it's harder to get people to play games. And not gonna lie, that kind of sucks. Like, especially it's dedicated to Beefy, who for the long time vets was everyone loved Beefy. Whether you played with him in Call of Duty, whether you're playing with him on Resistance, he was a super cool dude. And it's just one of those things like you would love to see the tradition of the cup, and especially with it being like essentially dedicated to him, to see it continue to be successful. But we know for it to be successful, given what we saw last game cycle, some modifications are going to have to be added.
yes, and I want to keep that. I want to keep that going because it's tradition. I'm not a person that like doesn't like when people go away with tradition. I love tradition. So if it's a tradition in this league, then we should keep it. I just feel like we may have to move it because, like you said, if the interest isn't going to be there, then we would have to put it. I like I said, I would say make it a one time thing per game, maybe. And I feel like if you do that, then that'll make it more prestigious because the cup will be throughout the life cycle of the game instead of every season.
Well, there's the one big change I can think of off the top of my head that would, and that would be bonuses to the coach contract. No one's going to pass up an opportunity to earn some points.
How much points would you add?
That I don't know. I'll leave that to the admin. I'm not even touching that one.
Like when would you add the points though? Per win or if you reach a certain stage? Like you reach shit. You reach the knockout round, you get 2 points. You get an extra point each round you advance to. So you go round of 64, those coaches get 2 points. Round of 32, you add an additional point. Round of 16, additional point for Elite Eight, additional point for Final Four, additional point for the championship. So like 7 to 8 points for the person who wins the cup.
Hmm, that's interesting.
But then,
Uh,
yeah, 7 or 8 points. That way, you could still put it in the beginning of the year, like started at the beginning of each season, and you already know by the time you reach the playoff or you make a playoff run or whatever the fact may be, that you got at least 2 extra points at the end of your season.
yeah, I feel like something like that would like it's hard. It's just hard to pass up on an opportunity for 3 points. You know?
Yeah, I feel like that would be good though. Like I feel like all the ideas that we've came up with are good, but as far as the beefy cup itself, I feel like this idea right here would probably be the best one because like you said, who's turning down free points? Nobody. Especially the chance to have 8 points, like new coaches, I need you to realize 8 points if we did that, if this is only if hypothetical, if if you had the chance to get 2 to 8 points, I'm sorry, 2 to 8 more extra points, that does a lot at the end of the season.
Yeah, it does a lot for your draft spot
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh yeah, it does a lot for your draft stock. It does tremendous things for your draft stock. If you make a magical run to the final four of the Beefy Cup, then that's 6, 7 points on top of whatever you did in season. Say you had a point total of 92 or 94. You're over 100 now because of what you did in the Beefy Cup.
Yeah. 'Cause I do feel bad. I remember the conversation that me and Beer Cop had. That's why I wanted to talk about it on the pod at some point. Because I can relate. Like I've been in the G5 for a good chunk of my time in the NDL. And it's not fun having to match up against, I'm in group play and I have to face, back in the day at Oklahoma and LSU. Like, man, like I said, it feels like you're getting cardio for your players. You're trying stuff out and that, but it's like,
I
man,
mean,
it makes it can make it tough, and I could understand why it can be demotivating for a coach of a lesser school to want to play that game. And it's hard still because there's only so many possible matchups and ways you can arrange the bracket to try to avoid
yeah,
as best you can for in-season matchups. And not even talking about out of conference, but just conference matchups. Like
yeah.
it's really hard to get a bracket that everybody can be happy with. So just throwing some ideas out there to try to make it more intriguing and also from the G5 perspective to motivate you to want to play.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, I've seen a lot of participation, especially in the G5. This season, when it came to the Beefy Cup and the group play, uh, two of my games were against G5 teams. So, and I got those games out of the way. I got all of my games out of the way. I believe I am going to advance. But the most that I've seen is the G5. Now, I haven't seen too many Power Four teams really play this season in the Beefy Cup. I've seen more G5. Like even the G5 versus P4. I've seen more games where the G5 was representative than P4 versus P4 matchup.
Sounds good too, because you have a lot of new coaches in the G5, so them being super active is definitely what you want to
Yeah,
see.
yeah. And that's the battleground for that. Like that, like you said, and I said that in the last pod. Like I told, since it's the new season now, I don't have to say it um as much. But I took the Beefy Cup serious because it's a brand new game. And for a while, we didn't have the draft until we was what, a week in? Maybe, yeah, a week into the game.
Well, depends on when you were picking.
Yeah, for me, it was a week into the game. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a damn sure a week into the game. Uh, we might not, we might have to revamp that draft shit. Not gonna lie.
Oh, I'm pretty
Um,
sure we'll be going hard from here on out.
yeah, 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 yeah. Mike's hard. Yeah. Pause. I We were a week into the game once we drafted. Well, once some of us drafted, or most of us drafted, week and a half. So I felt as if the beefy cup was where you got your reps in. Like, of course, people play scrimmages and stuff like that, but I'm pretty vanilla in a scrimmage. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty vanilla in a scrimmage. Um, Now it is a couple people I will test out certain stuff against, and I'll let them know I'm testing stuff out. Um, but for the most part, I'm pretty vanilla when it comes to scrimmages. But I took the Beefy Cup series because that's where you get your reps. Like, it meant something. Like, it's a tournament, yeah, it's a tournament for fun, but it still means something. So if I'm going to get those mental reps in for the season, then I need to get those mental reps in the Beefy Cup. I feel like that's gonna help me out in season. And I feel like it did. I feel like it really did.
I'll add one quick thing to that too, the Beefy Cup. Back in the day, that's how I came to my out of conference rivals. That I would the usual guys that I would play is because I played them in the beefy and we had a good game, win or lose. And it's like, okay, you know what? This was a fun game. We can do this next season. And then next season turned into the season after and the season after. And OOC is like, okay, what team you drafting, who's home, who's gonna be home, who's gonna be away, you know, it was an opportunity to play someone new, which doesn't always get to happen in the regular season. Like the Mountain West is probably the exception because a lot of people come back. You usually have some change in inside the conference, but I feel like
Yeah.
for a lot of people that are have been around the league for a while, the out of conference games tend to be around the same group of people. Maybe not the same exact people, but a rotation of people that you'll play. So the Beefy Cup does offer an opportunity to get some matchups against other people, and who knows? That person could be someone that's out of conference for you for the rest of your time in the NDL.
Or you could be like me and don't play anybody that you played. I have not, the only person I've played in season that I've played in any season that I've played in the Beefy Cup is Wilds, and I'll play him again this season. Me and him played in season 30's Beefy Cup, and I played him in season 31, and I'm going to play him again this season. He's the only person I've ever played in season and Beefy Cup.
Wilds is a fun game. I got to play against him when he had Iowa and I had Tulane, and he won on the as time expired. It was a really fun game.
I had
I was sad I lost, but I just remember just talking to Chad after the game, like, man, that was so much fun. If he would have went back to Iowa, I definitely would have chatted him up to see if he would have been interested in a OOC game.
I had San Jose State and he had Iowa. And of course we're different teams.
Hmm.
We were different teams. Well, I was a different team in season 31 and is a different team this season as well, and he is too. But that's the only person I've played. So
All right. Well, sorry to sidetrack, but it just popped in my head because one of my friends who's not in the NDL asked me about it the during the pod. So I just thought I'd bring it up on camera. So this show definitely went way longer than it was supposed to because that probably added like
way
another
better.
I added probably like another 20 to 30 minutes talking about that. So with that said,
It's okay.
you have to go to work tomorrow. I have to
I
be up
do. I
early
got
tomorrow.
overtime tomorrow.
Well, uh try to get some rest and I will be excited as will everyone else for the start of season 33. Good luck to every team in the NDL. Yes, even the Tennessee Volunteers and the Colorado Buffaloes. I wish everyone good luck. Have a great season and looking forward to watching some live action in less than
Sa-
24 hours.
Same here. I wish everyone good luck, except for the Miami Hurricanes and the Florida Gators. Fuck them. But everybody else have a great season and just be respectful, be mindful, and just have fun. Just have fun.
And reread the rules. Pat had it right on PTD. Everyone, myself included, before you go to bed tonight,
Read,
just take another
read.
look. Just give
Yes.
yourself a refresher. Just think of it like a college course. We're in NDL, 203. It never hurts to go back and look at some earlier notes.
That is true. That is definitely true.